Mediocre Hobbies Podcast, Episode 8, Movember Livestream and Why Do They Keep Changing Things?
Hello guys, welcome back to another episode of the Mediocre Hobbies Podcast. It is of course episode 8. I hope you've enjoyed 1 to 7 so far, and you are going to enjoy the episode 8 even more because we have some incredible things to talk about. Isn't that right, Mr. Landy?
Oh, top quality.
Yeah. Because we were recording this intro at the end of the podcast, we know everything we've said, so trust us.
Trust me, because I have to put it together.
So sit back, relax, and enjoy the podcast.
Congratulations on your stream.
Thank you so much.
What was the final total? Like 11?
13 nearly.
1,300. Bloody hell. Well done.
Yeah. It's kind of beyond insane. I didn't even remotely expect to get anywhere near that.
I think it's absolute quality that it happened. I think it was like 3-4 hours before you started. There was like 100 quid there. And then by the time you started, I think there was like 200 quid, something like that. And I was like, he is easily going to hit 500 quid.
We hit 500 quid 13 minutes in.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I was like, what the hell? The words can't describe, because it's one of those things, like, this is the first time I've ever done anything like this. So, like, as much as I'm a super positive person, which I am, I'm still like, I kind of have my expectations of things, and sometimes I doubt myself. And I had that whole thing as well in my head of like, I expect there will be like little peaks where there will be like a good amount of people on and stuff. So,
and I think there's a real fear with something like this as well, where, you know, maybe you've got 40 friends, right? Like, full stop. And so if you're streaming, your friends and colleagues will jump on a stream and they will support you. But will they support you doing something like this?
It is. I think it's my endeavor. So, like, even if, like, not a lot of my, like, none of my, like, not Warhammer friends were involved. None of them showed up. Or I didn't ask them to. I didn't tell them what was happening. Like, none of my family were there. But all of my, like, hobby friends, a good bunch of them were there. There was probably, like, kind of 5, 6, 7 of them. Then there was just such a large... That was the kind of people I expected to cruise with me through the day.
Yep.
And I just couldn't understand that. Like, and I kept looking up being like, that'll plummet in a minute. That'll plummet in a minute. Do you people not have anything better to do? Like...
Well, I mean, I did. So I jumped in and out whenever I could, and I thought it was really nice to kind of pop in and pop back out and see the stream and see everything evolve.
Yeah, and I really appreciated you dropping in and stuff, and you very generous donation. Thank you very much.
I mean, not at all. I think, you know, it's like anything else. I don't have a huge amount of spare cash, but I think when it's a good cause, it's worth donating to.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that brought it all together, was that it's like, people sometimes call them sub streams, where it's just about them getting more subs and stuff, so they're going on and stuff. But I was like, let's just make it about a charity. Let's just do something a bit of fun, like do something, you know, worthwhile with the time. So, and it's cool because, like, the way it works is that account that's set up with the charity is like that charity represents a whole bunch of different charities.
Yes, of course.
So, like, whenever I want to do anything like this again, I just log into my account and I go, you know, open fundraiser thing, pick a charity, and then generates a code.
Yep.
To just start. So I haven't actually ended the one I'm on now. It can run for a month, so I'm still not sure whether I want to go end now and just be done with it, or whether I want to put some Instagram posts being up like, I wonder if we can get to 1,500 before we finish out, guys.
I guess the important question is, what did you get painted? What was your final total
tally? It was not nearly as much as I expected. I don't know whether that was like me being silly, or whether it was just having to engage with so many people chatting away for the entire day. That sounds like an excuse.
No, not at all. My Leagues of Votann are on the way.
Congrats. Well,
just to let everyone know that I bought them after the rules got changed, not before.
The guy from Guerrilla Miniatures put up an amazing video the other day talking about why Games Workshop shouldn't change their, like, rules, and why they shouldn't react to things like that, and why they shouldn't constantly chase the perfection. They should just let it ride. And
well, what's your opinion on it? And I'll tell you
that exact thing. I don't think they should change the rules. I think they should just release something, and even if it's broken, it's like his thing was, they never used to, and the community figured it out. They gave, like, he gave really, like, I'm not going to go into his entire video, like anyone who wants to know my opinion on it, go and watch Guerrilla Miniatures. But like the whole idea of he kind of talked about Privateer Press and what they did with War Machine and Hordes, which is they based the game around the rules and around competitive play and against trying to balance everything. They brought out new rules every 3 months. They brought it, and they constantly were trying to go back and forth and fix things.
Yep.
And one of the big things he talked about was like, which means that the conversation around War Machine and Hordes was always just balance. That's all anyone ever talked about. It's like, did you check out this new balance? Did you see how this, they did this? Did you see how this rule fitted in? It's like no one was enjoying it for the game or no one was enjoying it for the models. They were just constantly comparing it to everything else.
Yep.
And he was like, if you went into a tournament like Adepticon 10 years ago, there'd be as many people playing War Machine and Hordes as there was playing Warhammer. And now the company is basically dead. My personal opinion, even before I watched his video, was there are tens of thousands of units in 40k.
Yep.
And they all have to interact with each other.
And just for clarity, what you mean by that is a squad of 5 Space Marines can be armed in 65 different ways depending on how you do them. So each one of those is a separate thing to balance.
Yeah.
Yep.
And each thing is supposed to be balanced off of everything else. How does that interact with that unit? How does that interact with that unit? How does that gun interact with that guy? It is literally impossible to balance 40k. Like, it is
and
impossible.
Keep it fun. Let's go with that. And keep it fun, because technically you could balance it, but it would be
by making it chess.
Oh, by making it first.
But even
edition.
chess isn't finished, isn't balanced, because whoever goes first, there you go. That's an advantage. So
I personally think the most balanced game Games Workshop has ever done is Warhammer Fantasy Battles 8th edition.
Okay.
And I base that entirely on the fact that at that time, that was like, what, 2010-ish, give or take? They didn't look at the community. The community didn't exist. No one cared about the community at large.
Mm-hmm.
They were writing those books concurrently, I would say. Like, not obviously all at once, but like the era of 8th edition was not long.
Yeah.
When the last book that came out for 7th edition, which, as we all know, the last book for any edition is written for the next edition in mind.
Yeah.
So the last book for 7th edition was Beastmen.
Yep.
The first book for 8th edition was Orcs and Goblins.
Yep.
At the end of 8th edition, when we had books for everything else, Beastmen and Orcs and Goblins were then winning tournaments. Because the entire edition had been, in air quotes, written at once. So everything was, air quotes, balanced against itself. And so stuff that was really bad at the beginning, Beastmen and Orcs and Goblins, became good because the stuff that was hyper anti them got replaced during the edition, as it would naturally do. And because we don't know what's coming down the road for 40k, who are we to tell them Leagues of Votann need this to be changed? We don't know what's coming out next month. We have no idea what's coming out in 2 weeks. We don't know what's coming out in 6 months. So why are we the ones telling them how to balance a game that we don't know any of the other?
I've also, like, from personal experience, from working in the shop, I've seen this dozens of times where something like a rule leaks or some codex gets like a showcase of a unit and the whole community is up in arms. Or even when people first get books.
Yep.
And they tell the world, oh, this is broken and this is stupid and this is the list you want to take. And give it 3 weeks and all of their opinions have changed. It's like,
absolutely.
You actually play tested it and now you see that it's not as powerful or that's not really the best combination or not like, it's just like, well, you just take a chill pill, guys. Like, you're pushing those values around the table.
I also don't think there's anything wrong with things being like powerful. I think that's good.
It's fine. It's fine. It's a thing.
Yeah. I really like it when, what was it? Was it 7th edition to 8th edition 40k where Space Marine bikes went from useless to good and then they were useless again?
Yeah.
Like it was just like, I think there was a codex shift mid edition and Space Marine bikes were literally like the thing to take and then they were gone again because they just weren't as good as they were and it wasn't worth it.
Yeah, just need more. Just give me more. I'm always one for more toys. Just they make miniatures to sell miniatures. They don't forget the rules. Like, honestly, me and Dave had nothing but solid games in our thing, and we have barely followed two rules. You couldn't find two rules to rub together in our games.
Yeah, no, I've seen a couple.
And that's part of it, is that whole idea of like, if you're not going to tournaments, which, let's face it, 99% of people who play Warhammer 40k don't go to tournaments. Yeah, would that be a fair thing to say?
Oh, 100% of people don't go to tournaments. Like, it's a rounding error.
Yeah, literally, it's nothing. So if you're just playing at home with your friends and you get some people who are like-minded, make up your own rules. Just do whatever makes you happy. If you don't think that's fair, fix this or change
I don't
that.
think people should make up their own rules. I really like the challenge of, like, I'm someone who writes an army list. Like, if you tell me, meet me in Underworld Gaming in Tala on Saturday at 10 o'clock and I'm going to play 40k with you.
Yeah.
All I want to know is how many points are we playing. That's it.
Yeah.
I have always written an army to essentially be a tournament army. Like, I'm going with an army that should be, in theory, powerful and balanced. And it doesn't matter if you show up with orcs or you show up with Chaos Knights. You know, an army that has 6 models or 600. I should be able to deal with that. And I'm not going to be able to, like, as far as I'm concerned, I should be able to step up there and either win or lose and then take something from that and do it differently the next time. Even with the same army, I don't need anything else to change. A friend of mine, when I grew up, he would always tailor his armies to beat me.
Yeah.
Which doesn't take much, let's be honest. But
we all had a friend like that.
Yeah. But that was his thing, right? He would tailor his armies to beat me because we didn't have anyone else to play. And so I would try and do a balanced army, and then all of a sudden I would get beaten because he had Masmundi on, on a Stegodon. And you're like, cool. I can't beat him with my high elf archers and spearmen in static pose. Let's re-rack. That'll be it, you know? But I always did well at events because my armies were, rounded. Now, I'm no good at events anymore, but I definitely feel like the hatred for all this kind of stuff comes from people who are at these events who, not even they're at the event, they're just afraid they're going to encounter this at an event, and then what does that mean? Is their weekend going to be ruined by playing one game?
Which I don't know how that can happen. You've got 5 games. If you look, one of them is generally going to be bad, and the rest are going to be fine.
Yeah, I know, right?
That's kind of how it works. And you don't even have to do like some people's armies. Some people, your like personalities just don't gel or whatever, and you're just like, it's not you'd have a bad game, but you just wouldn't have much banter or chats between. You'd just be like, oh, I'm going to do this, and you're like, okay, cool. I love when you have a game and it's just a bit of fun and just a bit of crack. And
did you know that Games Workshop had but never released a dice rolling app?
No.
Andy, I'm teaching you all sorts of stuff today. So there was. It was around about the time of the Skaven book that had the little Narholes, whatever they're called. You know, the things you place on the battlefield, like little.
Yeah, that wasn't long at all.
Nope, not that long ago. So I was playing a game at a tournament with a guy who was a playtester who had the dice rolling app, and he had in his army. This was when plague monks were at their worst. Like a plague monk do something like
56 attacks from like 10 of them or some stupidness like that.
Yeah, and his whole army was them. So, and he's a really nice guy. However, he was also so slow. And I was warned before the game. I was like, oh, he's a really good guy, but he's very particular and he's a bit slow. So just if you need to speed up. In the time that everyone else got 4 turns in, we got to the start of turn 2. He started the game by giving me a 4 to 6 minute overview of this dice rolling app. In what I assume was a pleasant thing to go, look, I know I've got a bit of a history of being slow, but this is going to help me be fast.
Yeah. And
by the end of everyone else's turn 4, we had just started turn 2.
What?
He was so slow. And I was playing Magakin of Nurgle. I had, I think, like 6 or 7 units of Blight Kings, like lots of small units and a couple of characters and some drones.
Yeah.
So I did my first turn in 15 minutes. Yes. And we got to the start of turn 2. Maybe it was the start of my turn 2. Maybe he had like double turn me or something, and like so maybe my recollection of this is slightly off. And I said to him, "Oh, I don't want to complain that you're being slow. I know you're trying to, play the game at a pace or whatever. I know you show me the dice app. I appreciate you trying. But if we don't get at least 4 turns in, I can't win. Meaning I need to be able to move across the battlefield and do things. And he just put his hand out and said, okay, you quitting then? And I was like, no, what I'm saying is I can't beat you if you don't let me play the game. And he was like, oh, okay. And he did, speed up a little bit. And, I know the tournament organizer, and he kind of came over and gave me a look, and I was like, we'll be as quick as we can. We'll be as quick as we can, Dan. Just let us play the game.
Yeah.
But it's like, there are circumstances that, if that game was a 40k army, it would be nerfed immediately because the whole community would just explode about it. But you can do an army like that in 40k. You can do an army of Genestealer Cult where it's all guys on foot, or Imperial Guardsmen, guys on foot, just 150 guys.
More. Guardsmen at one point were 40 points for 10. So you could take like 1,200 points of your army and have 300 Guardsmen on the table. And then still have...
Now they've all got free equipment.
Everything. So they wreck you. Every 6 is an automatic wound, and we're going to frontline fire you into next week. The list exists. No one can be bothered building it. But it's like the guys who took 7,000 mortars. Like... Yeah. People wrote those lists. They're like, oh my God, we could do this. Like, well, like 3 people in the world did it, and they were all crappy conversions.
Yep.
And that brings back to what I'm saying. Like, it's not about the rules. It's not about anything. It's about who you play.
Yes.
Like-minded people. Like, you would never choose to play that guy again, right?
I would absolutely, if that came up, I would go to the tournament organizer and go, I really can't. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And if that was like, well, you have to play him or not, I would like, well, I'm just going to forfeit because I'm just going to do nothing for 3 hours, and I could go look at things otherwise. Yeah,
exactly. And like that I think is the most important thing. Like if you get
nothing against him, by the way, absolutely nothing against him, but I just would never play him again.
No, that's just how he enjoys the game.
Absolutely.
And he's entitled to enjoy the game as whatever way he decides to enjoy the game. But
maybe he shouldn't do it at an event though.
Yeah.
When you have to get X turns in Y time, maybe, or take a different army, like Yeah,
if he knows that he's a slow player, he should kind of plan around that.
Yeah, and like so like I think I've said this before, but most of my friends live in the UK, where I lived for a long time. Most of my armies are 35 models. Like I have 2 Stormcast armies. They're both about 35 models.
Yeah.
I've got a Nurgle army that's not much bigger. I have a Chaos Knight army for the same reason. I've now got an army of Imperial Guard or Astra Militarum Leman Russes with like 20 guardsmen, and the rest is just Leman Russ.
Yeah.
Like, I build armies specifically so I can travel with them, and that's an unnecessary thing I have to do because I'm going to have to fly to an event.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that's a real constraint. And can I build an army that's any good and travel with it? Yes, but I can't win with it, so it doesn't matter. Like we went to an event in Derby a few years ago, and another guy had almost the exact same army as me, and he came 5th and I came 2nd to bottom.
Yeah.
My first game was against one of the guys in my gaming group, and I deep struck my Stormcast 9 inches away from his Nagash. I rolled double 1, and I had also paid 3 command points to add +3 to the dice roll because of the
Gabriel Sherrard.
Yep, correct. And I still failed that charge. That's that's what my games are always like. So you can give me any army, and I will, I'll give you a good game, but I'll lose miserably.
Yeah, well, definitely you'll be on one of the battlefronts at some point. We can get it organized. Like...
Well, with that raucous, look how good you'll be, Tom. Get up
here. Yeah. Like I'm sick of losing to Dave, so maybe I'll bring you up for a game or two. Make myself feel better.
What am I gonna lose with?
Whatever you want, buddy. I've got armies for days here. You don't need to travel with anything. You just show up and smile, unless you want to bring your own toys.
Yeah, I really like some of my armies. My Chaos Dwarves. What year is this? My Chaos Knights and my Eldar are absolutely gorgeous. So I'll take either of those.
Yeah, whatever you want. The world to see, buddy. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mediocre Hobbies Podcast. We have been your hosts, Mr. Andrew Farrell, which is me, and Mr.
Tom Landy. Andy, where can they find you on the internet?
You can find me under the guise Mediocre Hobbies on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, exactly the same name. So Mediocre Hobbies.
So yeah, you can find me on Twitter as Tom Landy, but this week, instead of looking for me, go and click the link in the show notes, donate some money to the charity before Andy closes the door and submits the money to them. And also, if you've stayed this long and you're watching on the Mediocre Hobbies YouTube channel, please give us some comments. Otherwise, I will literally just keep talking rubbish with Andy forever without any structure. You've only got yourselves to blame. You've only got yourselves to blame.
It's all your damn fault.